Rappin with ReefBum is sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine.
Hey, what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rappin with ReefBum. I'm your host, Keith Berkelhamer. So, on today's live stream, I welcome back Kenny Lin from Pieces of the Ocean. Kenny, what's up, man? You were on a couple years ago.
Hey, Keith, yes, glad to be back. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah.
It was fun, except for
I didn't really know what the
connection.
hell I was doing back then, so hopefully, we'll both be.
Hey, man, you come a long way. Congratulations.
I think you were one of the first guests I had.
Yes, it was the early days. I don't remember exactly when. And I was just going back and forth about what year, what month it was.
Yeah. So for those folks that don't know Kenny, he is the founder and CEO of Pieces of the Ocean Aquarium Shop in Staten Island, New York, that sells premium coral with would you say an emphasis on SPS, Kenny?
I love SPS myself, but we sell all kinds of corals.
Okay.
I think
I just noticed the SPS. That always catches my eye, but
yeah, me too. But a couple of guys that work for me, my partner, we all love SPS, acros, and we dedicated more tanks for it than other corals. But we get excited about all sorts of corals.
I hear you. So Kenny's operation also has a very big presence online, piecesoftheocean.com. Go check them out. In Kenny's prior work life, he worked in the technology and advertising field. I was in advertising as well, so we have that in common there, Kenny. But he has been all in on this coral business since 2017. Is that right? Is that when you started this Pieces of the Ocean?
I quit my job in 2016.
2016.
Yeah, I quit my full-time job in 2016.
So this is really cool. His career switch was featured in the Wall Street Journal, and I'm showing the cover of that article right now. It's a great read. I recommend it. You can find the article by Googling it. Is it also on your website there, Kenny?
You know what? I should put it on the website. It's not.
You got to get on your website, man.
It's not. I had, yeah. I should put it up there.
Really cool.
It's not. Yeah.
All right. So
but you can Google it and you can find it.
Yeah, Google it. So before we get into the conversation, I did want to thank the sponsors for the show, both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine. I really appreciate these companies supporting the show, and I also appreciate all you folks tuning in. I see a bunch of familiar screen names out there. Don't forget to hit that like button so more people can find the live stream. And as always, please ask your questions or just comment in the chat, and we'll try to get to them. Always fun to have an interactive show. So, Kenny, man, how's it going? I think the last time I saw you might have been at Reefapalooza in New York last June, but yeah, it's kind of been a while.
Yeah, I remember that you were actually doing your thing, filming, with your camera.
Well, you had a lot of eye candy there, so it was, I had to kind of capture that.
Yeah, it was everywhere. Yes, a door show. We set up tables, we sell, but we were just as excited to be there to sometime buy and trade with vendors. You don't know what happened prior to the show start. We would just go between booths, trade with other vendors.
Interesting.
And it's a fun experience just before we really got busy, because once we started selling, we couldn't leave the table really.
So do you guys reach out to other vendors before the show and kind of like, hey, what are you guys bringing? Do you kind of like try to work out some deals beforehand, or you're just kind of like, hey, we're going to be walking the floor and seeing what we can.
I don't know what we don't. I don't know what other people do, but what we would do, we look at the floor plan, and we try, who's there? Oh, last time, we traded this. Let's see what we kind of have an idea what everybody's bringing. Everybody got their little niche, so we would, we had a good experience. We go trade with them. Or sometimes we just let's hit this booth up, let's hit that booth up, and we're just hobbyists at heart still, and at the same time it's a show where we look to widen our selections. We all know that everyone's looking for something that's different. We can't be constantly selling the same thing on auction, so we're always trying to look for other stuff that we don't have. We try to include that into our grow out, into our plan to grow and stuff like that. So.
David Waters says, I love POTO. They have great corals and great service. And Nano Joe picked up a rainbow 8 cans from POTO last year at RAP New York. So
hey, thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, you guys going to be back at RAP again in June?
Yes, we will be.
All right, man. I'll see you then.
Yeah, see you. Yeah, every year. It's in our backyard. We have to be there.
Yeah. So, all right, man. I talked about this career switch of yours, and you and I do have that sort of thing in common. We're both sort of like in the advertising business. What was behind that in terms of making a switch from the business world, advertising technology to this reef keeping world, right? I mean, it was obviously a hobby for you, but what was kind of like the reasoning behind that switch, and what was your vision for POTO?
That's a good question. A lot of people ask me that question in different format, but never really asked me the way you asked me. I think it was a combination of things, from the way I was brought up. I always have that little entrepreneurish, spirit in me. But everybody says they have that. But I think it's about having a legacy. And at that time, in my day job, I was making things. But at the end of the day, that things was given away and didn't bear my name or anything like that. So I wanted to have something where, I could have a legacy on it. And then one of the things, build your own thing with your name on it. So it just so happened I was into the hobby. I was passionate about it, and with a little bit of a naive, sense of like, hey, how expensive this hobby is, right? So I was spending tons of money on it. Like, my job at the time was paying pretty well for my time, for my age, but I couldn't save any money. All my money went to corals, and I was thinking, if I'm spending all this money, who was making all this money? So a little bit, I think everybody has that kind of mentality, when they spend money, someone's got to make it. So I just want, let me start out with me trying to sell some frags, try to break even, and then start going to shows. And Manhattan Reefs was one of the first shows I went to. Actually, was the first show I sold at Manhattan Reefs, at Pratt, and at Page University. I think, give a shout out to Mark, give a shout out to Reefs.com. they started out this local show that was really well run at the time.
Yep.
And I went and just, you know, didn't know how it went, how I would do, but people apparently liked the frags I was selling, and I thought there was something to it. So in the back of my mind, I thought, you know, my job sucks. You know, this job rocks. Why not, right? But I think the timing was important because at that time I did not have. I was not married. I didn't have a family. Didn't have a baggage, and I was ready. I was able to go all in. I think it was today. I have a family. I got 2 kids. I got too much, you know, to risk. I wouldn't be able to go all in on it. But it's the thing about. I think if you read the article, one of the questions was that would I regret not doing this, lying on my deathbed? You know, a little dramatic, but I said yes. You know, that's really what drove me to it. Having a legacy, not having any regret, and you know, at the same time, have a great support system around me. You know, that's important too. My wife sacrificed a lot. You know.
So, Du Bin Lim, I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hopefully. Question is, I always daydream about leaving my job to start my own business. What were the biggest struggles and challenges you faced in starting up a business?
Having a great support system is important. You cannot spend, you know, 20 hours with corals and have someone that you live with someone that's upset about that. You know, they have to know what's going on and have to be on the same page. Gotta be honest with yourself. I had this talk with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, saying, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? And she's basically said, do you have a plan? What's your timeline? And they basically said, look, you can accomplish, you don't have anything to show in a certain amount of years, you gotta have a plan B. You gotta be willing to come back to the real world. And that's what I did. You know, I gave myself a plan. So there was a timeline to accomplish, to hit a milestone. For example, I had to, I started out in an apartment, selling out an apartment, then I moved to the basement, 400 square bit. I gave myself 3 years in the basement. If I can't grow this business in 3 years in this basement, or there's no opportunity to grow this business, then I should be ready to go back to full. Because you know, you only live once, right? So you only have those 3 years. You cannot keep going on and on and keep spending money. So 3 years in, and I had an opportunity to partner with Will. A lot of you guys know about him, and we opened a storefront. So that, having a plan, having a timeline for yourself, and when you do that, you really pressure. You know, you go out of your way, you sacrifice, you make sacrifice to make sure you hit those goals. Yeah.
Showing the picture of the storefront, the for rent sign on the front there. Yeah, listen, man, it's not an easy thing. I mean, what was the whole process? And I'm going to show these pictures when you first started it up. You know, when you go from your apartment, right, to an actual storefront. What you know, what's the mindset in terms of? I mean, it's like daunting, right? I mean, it's like a big task.
Yeah, good question. When you said that, I remember when I was doing water change on a 40-gallon. I had, and I'm not sure you have the picture of the apartment. So in the apartment, what I did was I cut a hole in the dining room.
Yes, I got it.
The dining room, when I moved in, it was open. I created a partition to make it into a separate bedroom, right? That was the plan. Then I turned that room into a fish room and opened up a hole on the wall. And behind it, I used to sell fish. I was quarantined. That's the earlier days of, I'm not sure you guys were around, polar conditioned. I was polar condition, where I would condition all the fish and treat them, make sure they were eating before I shipped them out. And I was treating, and then I was doing water change. But that system was not thought out. So I had to lug a bucket of water throughout the basement. I would, you know, make a mess everywhere, and then it felt very, 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 for lack of a better word, felt very third world the way things were run there. But then I was thinking, you know what, I'm doing this. If I keep at it, you know, something would, like, it's silly because I think it's the way I was brought up. It's like, you know, hard work always pays off, right? You know, so I was just like, all right, let me just grind this out, see what happens. Let me grind this out. I have to grind this out. You know, I come this far. I thought there's a hole in the wall. You know, I can't go back. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a part of the personality where I was not afraid to get down dirty. I can't do it now. I'm over 40 now. I can't do it. Like, but back then it was a young man's game. So I think starting a business in coral is pretty much a young man's game.
Got Chris from ACA Aquaculture. Hey Chris, what's up, buddy? Says support system is key. It's not easy. Great story. Slow and steady. So I'm showing some pictures there, Kenny, of the I believe this is the storefront where you just started kind of construction in the basement of the storefront, right? There's a whole bunch of vats that.
So I'm not sure. I can't see the picture.
Yeah.
But if you show in the picture after the for rent sign, that's the current storefront right now with the construction going on.
Yep.
The plumbing, all the pipes, and all those. Yeah, those. That was during the beginning phase when I was building out the store. Yeah.
Who gave you the the direction, the advice? How do you like just kind of figure that stuff out? Was that like something you sort of figured out on your own, or did you go to other stores, or you talk to other people, mentors? No,
Google it, YouTube it.
Really?
Figure it out. Yes.
Holy crap, man! You just kind of figured that out on your own, huh? So you went from like an apartment operation to like a full-blown retail store.
What it is? You know what? I'm not sure. You were in advertising, right? So I was a developer. I was a programmer. And then if anybody on the stream that's in this line of business, line of work, you understand this day and age with technology moving so fast. Like you learn one language this year, next year a new language comes out that's more relevant. So you have to constantly learn. And that was that exact pressure that drove me away from the job, that I constantly have to learn. But at the same time, it kind of molded me into to having this ability to keep learning, the ability to be self-reliant and be resourceful and just to find things. And obviously, I made a lot of mistakes. The apartment that I started, I actually flooded downstairs with skimmer juice.
Uh-oh.
In the middle of the night, security rang my doorbell at 3 o'clock in the morning. The neighbor, because they thought somebody died in the bathtub in my apartment.
Was it going through the ceiling?
Yes. So what happened was I dosed interceptor, right? And then you don't know if after you dose interceptor, if you don't turn you gotta turn your skimmer, otherwise it makes your skimmer go crazy. I think it's the praziquantel that's in the medication that makes your skimmer go foamy as hell. I knew that, but I think I thought at the time, you know what? Let me just run into a 5-gallon bucket. If any access comes out, it would just fill up the bucket. So obviously, that skimmer overflowed the bucket and then continued to drain. So all the skimmer juice drained through the room downstairs. Apparently downstairs when I partitioned the dining room, they turned it into the bedroom too. Somebody was sleeping there. So their mattress has skimmer juice on it, and they thought they were like, we were so worried because I thought somebody somebody drowned in your bathtub because the smell. And then and nobody knew for a month.
They thought somebody was dead upstairs and they'd been there for a month or so, right?
Yes, not knowing this crazy fish guy has some skimmer overflowing.
Is that why you opened up the storefront? Because you got kicked out of the apartment for that one?
No, that didn't stop me at all. That just, after that, I was thinking, you know what? What can I do to make this not happen again? Because I'm still going to continue dose interceptor. I'm still continue to run my skimmer. I'm still going to run to a mistake where the skimmer can overflow. So I ended up buying a leak detector. At that time, the leak detection with APEP was not as well-made plug and play as today. So you have to kind of reverse engineer a few, the breakout box and then you gotta like wire things. You gotta. So, yeah.
Chris is saying from ACI, don't ask me how many times I've flooded the warehouse. We all do it. Maybe it's just me. Laugh out loud. Yeah, we all do it for sure, man. I have, I've had my fair share of floods, and so I have all my tanks in our finished basement. But I did have a sump pump installed, kind of like right near my one of my sumps. Yeah. And sump pump to pump out if you ever get seepage from the outside in, and the basement starts to flood and stuff. Fortunately, I live in a very sandy lot, so really don't get any of the water, the groundwater that comes into my basement. But in case I really screw up, I do have a sump pump that can kind of pump everything out. And
Yeah.
I also have a drain in the middle of the concrete floor as well. So,
You know, when I learned a lot because in the beginning we actually did services and maintenance, and we saw a lot of times when they build tanks for these expensive apartments, expensive offices in Midtown Manhattan, what they would do, there are two ways they circumvent these kind of situations. And, I mean, if you flood those areas, you know, you're lots of trouble, financial trouble. So what they do is, my favorite is actually drilling a hole on the top of the sump, drill a hole and then put a bulkhead in there and then run that pipe to a drain somewhere nearby. So that you never, at the worst case scenario, you're gonna run, your RO, you're gonna run into low salinity in your tank. But then your apex should pick up that, you know, along, or you run some kind of a pan, aluminum pan around the sump, so at least catch a good 5 to 10 gallon worth of water, and then you put an alarm on it, and they will give you a notification too. So those are very, I mean, back in the days, you know, you wouldn't know about these kind of things, but now that, you know, I wouldn't install any system these days without these type of fail-safe on it.
yeah, I would say leak detectors are essential. You know, I'm not like big in terms of like having a lot of things in terms of complicated setups with my controller and all that stuff. But you know, I always think it's really, really important to have some leak detectors, so some sort of leak detection system. And you know, also a little tip. I don't know if you find this, but on like really hot and humid days, I find it's the humidity can trip a leak detector. So what I do is I put I fold up like a little paper towel underneath the leak detector,
Yes.
and that's a good way to prevent those false positive readings.
I was going to say that, but good thing you said that. To add to that is we have to strategic where you place that detector, because you know we make spills around the tank all the time, and believe it or not, more often than not, you actually spill right on top. You know, that's how things work. You know, you spill right on top of the leak detector, and then it just, you know, trips it, and then it just. So you got to put it where it's out of the way, but at the same time makes sense, where it actually detects spill.
And I did a bonehead thing a couple of weeks ago. I was doing maintenance on one of my UV sterilizers, you know, and so I took the top off and I was soaking the glass sleeve in some vinegar, you know, to try to, you know, to get the stuff off, the dirt off of it, the calcification stuff, whatever, you know. So I'm soaking it, blah blah blah, and I'm doing other tank maintenance, and did a water change. I always shut my whole system down, and I got a bunch of switches. So you know, all the switches were off, and then when I finished the water change, I fired up the whole system, and I forgot that I had the UV sterilizer unhooked and exposed, and so I flipped that switch. Water like shot up. I'm like, what? And I don't know how, man, because it was near like it was near some electrical stuff. Not near, but it shot up into something. And also I have a what do you call that? A UPC, battery backup type of thing. And miraculously, I don't know, man, but everything was okay. It's just a little water on the floor. But yeah, you just never know. There's always something that you can do that could cause a leak.
Yeah, I know. As it is. I mean, if you're not making a mess in this hobby, you're not even trying. You know, this hobby is messy. You know.
So, man, you said you made a lot of mistakes in terms of the you know, the business and what have you. What were some of the bigger ones that, if you had the chance to do things differently, what would you have done differently?
Oh man, so from business side, do better accounting, bookkeeping. That's very important, because you gotta know where your money's going. I think that's a lot of times where that's how people go broke. Some of the mistakes, I don't think you can avoid it. For example, I mean, I don't mind sharing this with you guys. In the beginning of the business, we were eager to reduce our costs, so we're trying to go overseas to import corals. And I think many, I talked to many, you know, fellow vendors that we got scammed. You know, got scammed. Basically, it was a very elaborate scam where they actually did a FaceTime with me. So the person did a FaceTime with me and spent an hour talking to me, you know, talking about this facility, talking about the import, and then step by step until the top moment I sent money, it was just a regular transaction, very attentive, very, very, very normal. And then send the money over right away. It was just poof, no, nothing else. And then, it's not a lot of money, but at the beginning of the business, every penny counted, and it's to this day, it still haunts me, But I think mistakes, you have to make it for you to learn it.
There's there's a lot of things out there that can really, it's tough, man, because I run a business as well, and there's, like you said, when you're really trying to be profitable, everything matters, especially in the beginning in terms of that bottom line. And there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of different tripwires that you can hit. A few months ago, I encountered what was it? A chargeback? Not a chargeback. What do they call the thing where somebody orders something, they get it, and then they
chargeback?
Yeah, chargeback, right? That's what it.
A fortune charge. They filed it as a fortune, and then try to get the money back from the credit card company.
Yeah, and that's like basically.
They always side with the buyers.
Right, and so I mean, I didn't lose a lot of money on that thing, and basically what I found out is like it's almost impossible for a business to fight that with the bank, because the bank will always side with the customer. So there's just so many things out there that make it very, very difficult. But you never know, man. I mean, you could do a deal for like, sell something for a few $1,000, and all of a sudden it's like you said, poof, that could go away.
Yeah, like those raise a lot of red flags with us when we see a big order first time, and then different addresses, names don't match, the numbers don't match. We literally go do some detective work, try to Google the name, Google the address, see where they live, and literally call them up even just to confirm the order's legit. Make sure, hey, is this you that make this order? Oh, thank you very much. Try to be nice about it, but gotta protect ourselves too.
Yeah, I just invested in some fraudulent, software for my e-commerce provider. So that's something that it costs money to have that extra protection, but it's definitely worth it, because they're able to kind of like rate each transaction in terms of whether the possibility of it being fraudulent or not. So that's always.
But those software can protect you from fraudulent claims as well. I mean, a lot of time people don't think about it in this business, that people file fraudulent claims. And I have a story to tell. In the earlier day when I was doing polar condition fish, I sold a Regal Angel.
Love Regal Angels.
Yeah, but Regal, they have those stripes, right? And then stripes are not. I mean, they seem similar, but they not two fish are the same. And I sold one to a customer, and then it claimed it, sent a picture to me. Then I said, well, can you send me another picture, because the stripes don't seem to match? And I said, oh, I flushed it already, flushed it. Then I said, well, I need to see more picture, because I sent the picture don't match. And they said, you know what, don't worry about it. And then so there was an attempt to try to get something from me in that event. And I mean, these things, you see them, you don't think you see them, but people actually do it.
No, it's a harsh reality when it happens to you. What so Kenny, when you're setting up a store and corals and trying to sell corals, obviously it takes a while for a system to mature, especially with SPS.
Yeah.
What was that process like for you? Like, obviously you said you invest a lot of money in in paying rent for a storefront. You invest a lot of money in equipment. You want to kind of get going as quickly as possible in terms of selling, but at the same token, you got to be patient. Right, that's a whole reef keeping thing. Well, kind of explain to us how that whole thing evolved for you in terms of that process of plunking down money for rent and then actually being open for business. How long did that take?
Yeah, that's very challenging. Even when we opened up, we didn't have any inventory. All the inventory was in the basement. So we kept that system running. So literally you could look at it like we had two spaces running simultaneously. So one space we continue to sell from the existing space in the basement, where we can continue to have cash flow while we built out a new store. And then the move took really slow. We were bringing corals like literally 5 pieces at a time as the system brought them online. And we try to use existing live rock. But then the new space was so much bigger that obviously we had to acquire, you know, new water, new rock, new everything, and then those systems, the brand new system, took a long time. Like the current display tank, I think for the first year was not doing anything for us because we used complete dry rock. I'm pretty sure, you know, you guys talked at length about using dry rock to start up a system, and it was evident to me, you know, not just the display tank, even the tubs, the grow-out tubs, we were having a lot of issues just with swings. We weren't able to sustain coral. Like there would be like a month of time where acro would grow well and the colors, and then after that, and all of a sudden they start to like weird things can happen. They just like die out of nowhere, stop growing. So then the one thing that had not tried at the time was using live rock. So I started asking customers, asking people that I knew at the time that had well-established, mature reef tank, you know, can you send me some live rock rubble here and there? And that's what I did. You know, I threw some live rock in there, and that literally like, that's what turn everything around. You know, we see the tank, and then I would say probably about, not weeks, but probably like a month, 2 months time, you could literally see the corals turn around, like the polyps start to look puffy and juicy.
Yep.
And prior to that, the polyps just like skinny, you know, like there's no life to it. Like, you know how when you take coral out of water and put it back in, you know, the tentacles completely lose their vigor, you know. But we could see like they were like puffy, they were like filled with water. So it's a long process, but right now, if we had to do it again, I would probably keep all the live rock. They're the most valuable asset in the move. If you ever decide to move a tank from one place to another, the live rock will help the transition a lot better.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot to keep the live rock live. You know, I mean, if you got like a brute garbage, you know, can or a Rubbermaid tub, I mean, yeah, we were talking about it before the live stream, but I'm doing a major, you know, revamp on my big established SPS system, and you know, so I've been cooking like dry rock in that in a 100-gallon Rubbermaid for a few months now, and I've been, you know, been doing 10% water changes with the established tank water. I've been dosing bacteria, but you know, my one experience in terms of trying to start a tank purely with dry rock right at the beginning was just like an utter failure, and I'll be the first to admit I probably didn't do it correctly. You know, it was just too sterile of an environment. But this is going to be my second go around with dry rock, and I think, you know, knock on wood, that's the right way to do it, is to condition it.
You can still do dry rock. You can still do dry rock. You know, just keep a piece or two pieces of live rock around. The one with sponges on it are the ones that's the best. They give you an indication of how established your live bacteria and, you know, population is, and make sure you feed a tank. Make sure you feed a rock. Yeah.
Rob, upstate New York, thanks, man. Really appreciate that super chat comment. Is here's to the great chat. Really appreciate that. So, Kenny, I'm gonna show a video of the store and the SPS tank. Is there more than one SPS tank? That
Yeah, so we have a few display tanks that grow SPS, and then we have two tubs dedicated strictly to acropora, and then we have other tubs that we dedicate to mix LPS and zoas, and then we also have some smaller tanks for anemone, and we have one tub for what we call receiving. These are new coral that we come in that we basically just let it sit there and we observe. And then prior to that, we have another system, like there's not a receiving tank where we new coral go in there and we just like let it sit and observe and then dip. So SPS, like wherever the space, and then it can support acros, we grow acros. Yeah.
So what is your quarantine process like? How long does a coral go into quarantine? What do you dip with? I mean, let's talk about SPS.
Yeah, so that's a big thing, right? Especially in the hobby these days. So we have two systems that we keep our new corals in, and we just, when we first get them in, we put them in, and obviously we dip, But depending on the condition of coral, sometimes coral comes in pasty, and we try to not. If you dip it, you're obviously gonna kill it. But I have this thing that I tell the guys: I dip to kill. You know, I rather kill the coral than risk bringing something into our system. So in the beginning, the dip that we use is Prezi Pro. Okay, I prefer Prezi Pro. One thing is that if you look on the label, it says Reef Safe. So it takes a lot for that to cause issue with your coral. So it's very gentle. Now I dose. It's not a scientific dosage. It's all through trial and error. Basically, I dose so much where I see that it will actually start to cause issue with the corals, then I dial back. Then I know this is my dosage amount, and I haven't not had an issue. That thing knocks off not just worms, it knocks off starfish. I've seen it knock off Aptasia sometimes, and basically anything that's not coral, it knocks off. And I like it. I think there's one other person that I know that uses it, but I don't remember who it is. And also, I would prefer that over Bayer, is because Bayer give you that milky, cloudy ness, and then you can't see through what's in the dip. But with the Prezi Pro, actually keeps the water clear. Does not have the smell. So yeah, I like that better.
Is that a so you do a separate dip? You don't treat the tank with. I don't know a lot about Prezi Pro, but that's a separate.
No, you dip.
Dip.
I don't treat the tank with. The dose would be too low to do to make any changes. So like I said, I dose a lot where obviously if you overdose it to a certain degree, it will kill your corals. And I found out the hard way. So I've done it so long that I know exactly how much I need to dose before. So if someone, like, I don't want to give out this information that someone goes out and start dosing Prezi Pro and kill the tank. I don't want that to happen. So make sure you do a trial run first with a coral that you probably, you wouldn't cry if it died on you. And just, one thing that the corals is gonna you dose too much is when the polyps, that the mouth of the pot start to gape. I don't know, start to gape, then it doesn't it does too much. Yeah.
Great bearded reef, Paul, man. Thank you so much for that super chat. Comment is great looking tanks, Kenny. Thanks again for another great conversation, Keith. Thanks again, Paul. Really appreciate that. Yeah, you know what I started using, and I've talked about this a lot. I've started using potassium chloride, KCl, and
it's cheaper.
What's that?
It's cheaper.
It's. I mean, Farmer Ty.
Yes.
Ty. He turned me on to that dip, man, and it's been like a revelation for me because
I'm gonna try that out.
Yeah, yes. I did a video on it, and so I've got the all the information in that video, but it's clear, it's so freaking gentle on corals, and I usually dip for 25 minutes. You could dip up to 30 minutes. I've heard of folks that have actually forgotten that they left corals in that dip for like hours and the corals are still fine. I mean, knock on wood, man, I've been using this thing for months and months, and I have not lost any frag or any coral. I've started actually dipping ganies in this stuff, and because I had some red planaria on some ganies, and it like frickin' just annihilated the planaria on the ganies, and the ganies were like fine. I mean, and I had treated like the ganies with Coral RX multiple times before, and I think what was happening is the polyps on the Goniopora and the Alveopora were retracting into the skeleton, protecting the worms. But I think with the great thing about KCl is that it is like reef safe. I mean, obviously you don't want to like put too much potassium chloride into your reef tank, but it kind of works. The way it was explained to me is it's a like an osmotic shock, and the water somehow gets sucked out of the flatworms, and they explode. They disintegrate. I might have actually seen them disintegrate when you blow them with a turkey baster. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Eric Miz, thank you so much, man, for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Comment is glad to see POTO thriving. Been a customer since the basement.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. I gotta check out your store, man, one of these days. I mean, I'm always going through the tri-state area every now and then, but that would be.
You should come by. Yeah, corals are growing out of going crazy right now in the store.
What pest scares you the most?
Black bugs. I think everybody says that, black bugs.
And how do you address those?
Another thing that I had in the basement one time, I had spiders, Aquarius spiders. Not that many people come across them. They only come out during the day, and the thing is about them, they don't stay with the coral. They don't, like, you know, flatworms, black bugs, they stay with the coral. But these spiders, they go everywhere. Yeah, spiders, they're pretty scary. So yeah, always dip, no matter who you get it from. I don't care what people say about their QT quarantining practices. Something bound to pass through.
Always, you know, dip, no matter who you get it from. Always
dip and cut the base off. You know, when you buy colonies, try not to buy colonies. Try to buy frags. Just less to deal with. So, you know, easier to manage. If a big colony, then there's more chances of missing something. And they don't ship out anyway, colonies. So.
Yeah, those are definitely tricky, chunky frags or little mini colonies.
You know, I actually broken down someone's tank, right? Like thriving tank, beautiful tank, everything looks healthy, cannot be a better state. Broke it down, and then the coral was growing onto the back wall. So I think it was a red planet too. It was a huge colony, like the size of my laptop right here. And I broke it down, and then it was flat encrustment onto the back glass. Behind it, it was like clusters of flatworm eggs.
Ooh.
I was like, but then you look at the coral, you would never have ever
coral
guessed
looked healthy?
That. Super healthy. Polyps all out, super colored, you know?
Yeah. Did you pass on that?
You never know.
Did you pass on that red planet?
No, I took home, chop it all up. Chop up the base, get rid of all the eggs, dip, you know?
Yeah. All right, so Kenny, refresh our memories. You know, I'm pretty sure the last time you were on the show, we talked a lot about in terms of what you like to use for equipment and all that stuff. Or, you know, kind of give us a rundown in terms of how you guys like to, you know, run and maintain your reef tanks. You know, lighting, filtration, nutrient control. You know, all that stuff. You know, maybe start with lighting. Are you all still like 100% LEDs?
Yes, 100% LEDs. Only I would say 100% LED. Radions. Well, the store, when we built the store, we went in with thinking of using Radion, but we're open to other lighting platforms because, you know, it's so expensive. When you try to run a store, when you have like, you know, 50, 60, these things add up, and we were, you know, we're open to other type of platform, but we just found that the Radion generally just performed. I mean, they just grow corals. As long as they grow corals, we don't care. The other lighting that we're using right now, in the beginning on display tank, earlier photos show using Radion, but then the most recent one showed that we're using we're using ATI Stratton. That's a new lighting that we try, and we liked it because at the end, when you have a big tank, you actually save money because you ended up running less fixtures, and that's the whole goal we're going after. Because with the Radion, we needed more to cover the space that we had. And there's just too many wires, and then, you know, being that the tank sits in front of the store, it had to look elegant, had to look a certain way, and we found that the Stratton, you know, worked out. The only thing about that is the controllability. You had to go on a web browser, you got to change your Wi-Fi. I wish that they come up with an app like Mobius, and that would be a winner. But controlling it, it's not intuitive.
What made you take the plunge for the ATI Stratton fixtures? Anybody else was using them and had positive feedback, or what kind of drew you to them?
Reasons. One is we like the profile, the way it looked. Like I said, it was set on a display tank in front of the store. Secondly, we had good experience with ATI when we ran the T5 fixtures, and, you know, we kind of like had some faith in their light fixture, in the German, you know, it's a made in Germany fixture, so we kind of had some faith in it, and we tried it out, and you know, corals loved it, and it was perfect for the dimension, the footprint that we had on our tank, which is 68 by 30 wide by 24 high.
Yep.
So it's a weird size. So when we ran the radiant on it, we had to run T5 or Reef Brite on the side to give it additional coverage.
Yep.
But with the strand, we didn't have to. So we really like that fact that we didn't have to run more light, less wires. Okay.
Are those tough lights to get hold of? Great Bearded Reef is saying been trying to get those lights for some time now. Are they hard to come by?
Yeah, I would imagine they're not cheap either. I would imagine they're a lot more expensive now too. When we got, it was readily available when we got them. That was right before pandemic, and then I think right now it's probably a little harder. Also, there's not a lot of demand for it in America. I think that's why they didn't bother boosting the production for it. But I think you can still buy it. They didn't. Last time I checked, they had not discontinued it yet. So,
folks, I just want to remind you, if you haven't hit that like button, please do so more people can find the stream. And yeah, if you have any more questions for Kenny, drop them in the chat. So, what do you guys prefer in terms of spectrum there, Kenny, with your lights? You're running LEDs or
I'm going to be honest. People are not going to like it. I like blue. I like blue a lot. What? It just the color is just amazing. But white for the growth, have to have white, But as far as viewing, especially in the store environment, we're here to sell corals, so we keep the light blue most of the time. And then obviously people want to see white, they will ask. But I don't remember one time where people would ask to turn to white, except for shows. At shows they would ask to turn to white, and then we should turn to white for them. Yeah, the only thing is that your favorite coral organ tort does not show up in blue.
Yeah, man, you can't have blue lights and like blue corals.
But you'd be glad to know that in the display tank we're actually running quite white on the Stratton. So the organ tort actually pops in that tank. It's like that blue thing in that tank, it just pops. Everything else gets washed away because the blue is so blue. You gotta come and check it out.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
It's not a big colony, but it's blue. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, right. If you're running blue spectrum, heavy lights, then any blue corals are not going to pop out as much versus running the full spectrum. How, Kenny, how important is PAR, would you say, in the equation for growing SPS?
It's important, but I think what's more important is it's understanding that not all corals are built the same. So you have corals that will love 500 PAR, then you have different coral that may not like 500 PAR. Like even within the same genus, like Acropora, within Acropora there's hundreds of different species, and you can't put a red dragon under the same. You could acclimate, but you shouldn't. Red dragon where we put it where the blue millie is. Like blue color acros love highlight, and the deep water skin coral, like such as the red dragon, they don't really like that much light. I mean, they can survive, but they get washed out, they get bleached out.
Yeah. Yep. So we got a random coral question from Michael Bazzi. Any tips for polyp extension on Ganis?
On Ganis? Okay, so that's interesting. So I was just, someone was asking me about that today on Facebook because I posted some pictures. One is low flow, and to understand what they need is that, Gani actually occur in very silty, turbid water in the wild when they collect it. So considering it's not like what you would consider pristine condition. So in your home environment, like especially in the earlier days when people say, we can't keep Gani alive. Gani is one of those things that's out of reach. That's because we've championed having zero phosphate, zero nitrate, zero everything.
Yeah.
And right now the concept has started to change to where you gotta have some nutrient in there, and then so you have to have nitrate, you have to have some phosphate in there. And there's an article I read recently about how certain type of amino acid. There's many different types. I think there's 8 types of amino acids. I'm not a scientist, but I think there's certain type of amino acid that triggers polyp extension. So that's why a lot of these foods that we feed in the water, once you throw it in the coral, they don't smell it, but they sense it, right? So by feeding on a consistent basis, where your filtration can keep up with your feeding, you can bring forth the polyp extension out of the Gani. But the thing is, not too much flow, and remember that they come from an area come from in the wild. It come from turbid, silty water. So obviously lighting is important. You can't blast them too much light. You could acclimate them to a higher light, but don't when you first get them in. Obviously start them low flow, and just make sure you feed your tank. I'd rather see algae than seeing a bare, like sterile tank. That just gives me like, oh, goosebumps. You have to have algae. You have to have some nutrient in your tank. Yeah.
What do you guys like to run in terms of your nutrients at nitrates, phosphates?
So we only test 2 parameters in the store. We only test alkalinity and phosphate.
Wow.
Phosphate, we run pretty high phosphate, but we recognize that high phosphate has a negative impact on the growth rate of our acros. They grow, they survive, they color up even, but they don't grow. So in the beginning, we ran up, the highest phosphate we ran is we had like registered like 0.5 on this spray tank, like 0.5. But right now we run between 0.05 to 0.1.
So I'm showing you sent me some data on your alkalinity and phosphate, right? So I've got these test results, and yeah, man, I can't believe what I'm looking at here in terms of the phosphate. Holy crap.
So I sent that to you just to give you guys an idea. Like there's some surprises hidden there, right? So talk about stability, talk about numbers, right? So the SPS systems, SPS1, SPS2, those are the one where a lot of the growing happen. A lot of pictures that we take, the very, very fancy acros, they come out of those systems. And if you zoom out of the graph, they're actually quite stable. But you do see that it hit different numbers, like from 7 to 7.5, about 7 to 8.
You're talking about the alkalinity right there, yeah.
Alkalinity right there, yeah.
That's like natural seawater, right? I mean, that's kind of like where you're at in terms of your alk.
Yeah, I mean, we have run down to like 6.5 alkalinity, 6.8. Like the purpose of these charts is not to chase those numbers, to provide us with an idea of trends. Trend is most important to us. We want to see what this tank is trending to. Is it trending up, trending down, and then from that we can draw insight. I don't think I sent you the phosphate charts. That's why you're showing.
I'm showing right now the line charts for the alkalinity. So we're looking at the graphs for those, and you see a lot of ups and downs on some of these tanks.
Those ups and downs are from are storytellers, right? The reason why I send this to you is because to tell you that it's important to keep a historical graph of your parameters, because it tells you what happened. Like for example, one of the spike was happened when we had a clock in the Kamoa pump, and we changed out the tubing, and then when we did that, obviously it pumped, even though the drip rate was the same, but the volume was a lot more, so it spiked up the alkalinity, and then we fixed that immediately. A lot of these dips or dips could be from emptying of the calcium, the CO2 canister that we rarely check. When you have a large consumption of calcium and alk, things would just go really fast. Instead of lasting a year, it just lasted 6 months. But we fix those, we adjust those right away, and we test those almost daily. And you can see we actually have the names of each tester next to the test, so that we can talk to them, and we can have sit down and talk about what happened, and we can fix those problems right away. And that's what really continue to give us a lot of confidence in our tanks, even though you see that volume go crazy, go wild, but because we fix them, as soon as we see it and we adjust it, or we know, oh, this is because you did a water chain, we did a 50% instead of doing a 20%. We did 60%, instead of 20%. That obviously we're going to drive up your alkalinity, but we have not seen any problem with these kind of swings, as long as we fix them right away.
What are you guys using to monitor alkalinity?
People.
Oh, you're using test kits?
Test kits, yes.
Oh wow.
I tried the KH
director.
Yes, I tried that. It provided the same insight and value as the staff that we provide, because someone's there every day, and they test, and then although the numbers have like a 1 decimal off, but then they're trending the same. And we found that, you know what we care about most here is the trend. We don't care whether it was 9, we don't care if it's 7. We care whether or not it's trending this way or trending down, and then we know this is tank consuming too much. If it's consuming less, what is causing the coral to stop growing, and then usually we can draw, we can figure it out, like, oh, we just drop this, drop big huge fish in there. Maybe nutrient just fine. Let's look at phosphate. Maybe phosphate has spiked, and then they stop growing. Or if it's dipping a lot, usually, oh, there's something clogged, or we catch it because we test every day. We catch it on the spot, so it never caused any issues for us.
You guys using the calcium reactors on your systems?
Almost every systems.
Go.
Yeah, every single systems. Yes.
How much do you guys monitor pH, and do you lean on pH in terms of trying to get within a certain range, or is pH not as much of a concern for you?
So I think unless you're in a room with no air, I think generally seawater, naturally by nature they buffer pH to a certain point. But I do find that it wasn't until recently we installed a split unit in the store. Not recently, like a couple of years ago. Prior to that, we never tested pH. I mean, we had pH on the apex. It read like certain value. We never paid mind to it. But when we installed a split unit, when we provided air movement above the tanks, saw our pH go up to like 8, consistently above 8, right? Before it was like it would dip below 8, and we simultaneously saw better growth. And that's when this is a coincidence, but it's a good thing that we did this, because now that corals are growing faster because the pH is high. There's definitely merit to it, and I think you don't necessarily have to chase the number, but just make sure that you have good air circulation, and it will naturally raise your pH. If your pH is too low, I even had a CO2, like a silly CO2 monitor in there, and it tells a lot of story. Like when we have Monday, when we do shipping a lot, the CO2 level will be really high, and then on weekends or the later end of the week when there's less people working or less, the store is not as fast, the store is a little slow, the CO2 goes up, and then you see the pH correlate to that. So just address those issues, and then once you lead a certain lifestyle in that room where the fish tank sits, it will continue to keep that pH consistent. So
besides making sure that the air is circulating, anything else that you guys do to make sure that pH is above 8?
I mean, we dose Kalkwasser as a supplement because of the demand, not because to drop pH, because pH is already high. But we dose Kalkwasser just to as a supplement. I know you mentioned in the last show that you do it reverse, where you do Kalkwasser as a primary source.
Yeah, it's pretty much like my primary thing in terms of dosing Kalkwasser, and then the calcium reactor doesn't go on that often. Yeah,
so I dose it 24/7 actually on the dosing pump, but very slow. And our the highest point of pH right now is actually 8.6. The other day I checked.
Yeah, man. On one of my systems, my pH, I'd been like, for my newer Peninsula tank, my pH had been like in the 8.4 to 8.6 range, for a long time, and then it dipped, kind of like after the last time I recalibrated the pH probe, and then it had been running like in the 8.1 to 8.3 range, and I'm like, man, that's kind of weird. Why after the recalibration did it like go down to like that lower level? And finally today I got off my ass and I was like, I'm gonna recalibrate that pH probe to see what's going on. And so it was off. It was like not reading correctly, and so I've been opening up some more windows. It actually is getting a little bit warmer up here in Vermont. So.
Was it the 8.6 that's correct, or was it the 8.1 that's correct?
The 8.6. So today, I mean, my pH right now it's about 8.7. I'm like, holy crap, man! I gotta get that. I gotta close the windows. I gotta get the pH down.
Yeah.
So I recalibrated, and I was like, wow, that's it was.
I don't know, like which you mentioned, we do for recalibration in the store for all the pH probes. But,
that's that's very important for folks out there that are chasing the pH like myself. You definitely want to make sure your pH probes are calibrated correctly, because you don't want to like.
How the corals look?
There was a couple like that were a little stressed out, the last couple of weeks there's been a couple of corals that have been stressed out in that tank. I'm like, what's going on, And my salinity had dropped a little bit in that tank too, so I thought originally it was salinity, but then when I saw, that the pH range was probably off, I was like, holy crap, man, maybe that's the pH they're getting pissed off at. So what do you guys like to run your salinity at, and what salt do you use?
Instant Ocean.
Yeah, that's what I've been using.
0.26, 0.27. Sometimes I don't mind high salinity. Low salinity will cook. I think low salinity will kill corals. In my experience, I have had like where I just go a long time without calibrating a salinity plan, whatever we use to test salinity, and then it would drop to like 0.020, and then coral just be suffering, but I wouldn't know. But high salinity, I have not seen negative effect, which makes sense because there was an article about Red Sea being the salinity in Red Sea is 1.028. So and then the article mentioned that it's likely that is why that the corals in that ocean, in that sea is a little more resistant to bleaching because Red Sea they're very dry, very hot, but the salinity is very high, and they think that high salinity has something to do with that. They didn't provide any scientific, facts to back that up. It was just like it could be anecdotal, but I think this is a great thing for us to find out in the hobby, because people, it's coincidentally, we can find out when we make mistakes. When we make a mistake of having too high salinity, or maybe mistake of having too low salinity, and in my experience, low salinity has killed my corals, where high salinity have not killed my corals. So
yeah, Paul, Great Bearded Reef says Adam from Battle Corals runs his salinity at 0.028, so that's pretty high.
That makes sense. Yeah, it sounds high because we used to 0.25, 0.26, but if you really think about it, the rest, the scientific paper, I think it was on Nat Geo, saying that Red Sea, how beautiful the reef. I'm not sure you're a diver. I never dove Red Sea, but I've seen pictures. It's beautiful, and it kind of makes sense.
So Kenny, let's get back to Ghana Port Care, and this relates to SPS as well. Do you guys dose any trace elements, or do you feed any amino acids in coral food?
No, we don't do any of that. What we do is very simple. I'm not sure you had a picture of the sump, of the display tank. We calcium reactor with a fuge and lots of fish, and we feed a fish, and that's pretty much it. And the reason behind it is being in a store, in a commercial environment, we cannot get too intricate or complex. We gotta make it so that anybody comes in to work at the store, they can just pick it right up how to care for the tank. If we tell them, you gotta dose this how many mil, it gets too much.
So you guys don't do any, you don't get into the whole ICP testing and whatnot. You're just it's a real basic approach to reef keeping.
No, I think that to us is fun to know. We send it in once in a while just to cross-reference. It's not something that we rely entirely on. Like I would probably send in the ICP test once a year, only for like the display tank, just to see, just to see. We don't take any action based on the findings. It's all towards.
I'm kind of similar in terms of the ICP testing. I don't do it that often, and I also don't try to overreact to ICP tests because I think there's so much information that you get from an ICP test that there could be a whole number of different red flags. But I always go by the observation thing, right? If your corals are looking good.
Here's the thing, right? When you're in the business, you realize 95% of your customers, they're not like, they're in it for the enjoyment of the coral. They're not like techie or if you want to get techie, that's fun also. It depends what kind of person you're, but most of the customers that we've dealt with, come across, they just want to have a happy growing health. They don't want sometimes having to care about calcium, like the basic parameters, is already a lot for them to have to deal with, right? So we try to set our parameters, similar to what a regular home hobbyist would have in their home, and try to match their parameters. And that's why we use Instant Ocean. Instant Ocean is great because they make it in such a big batches that the quality and the consistency is very, very stable. and then public aquarium use it, and then can't go wrong. I mean, you can't be having salt that kills like multi-million-dollar animals in the public aquarium. So we trust that entirely, and we just kind of like starting as a blank canvas and supplement with calcium reactor and feed a lot. Have a lot of fat, happy fish.
So how many times a day do you feed, and what do you guys feed?
Well, so now I'm not as in the store as much anymore. But when I'm in the store, whenever I can, I just drop some food in there, and I hand feed them, and that's part of, that part of enjoyment of the hobby or the work, right? So I feed them a lot. I mean, I just like to drop food everywhere I see the fish eat, and then when the guys are busy, I know that they're busy. I feed the fish, or make sure they're well fed. So yeah, I'm not afraid to feed them as much.
What do you guys like to feed them?
Everything, frozen seafood. Seaweed, mysis. We have rods and LRS in the store. Just a mixture of anything that we can get.
Yeah, I feed like my fish 4 times a day, and I try to do a variety. I do like mysis and brine cubes. I'll do a homemade blend which includes like a whole bunch of different seafood I pick up from the supermarket, plus some garlic extract, some spirulina powder, some reef roy. I'm like throwing everything but the kitchen sink in that.
They eat better than us. Fish eat better than
yeah, and then I also feed the nori sheets. It got a lot of tangs, and I think that's good, and pellets. So yeah, I think feeding a lot and just a variety is a really good thing.
Not only for the fish too, but for the corals as well. You gotta remember, when you feed a fish, they poop. They actually pee. The pee comes through the gills, right? So through the pee, it comes out with ammonia. Ammonia turns to nitrite and nitrate, and nitrate feeds your corals. So when you don't feed your fish starve. One, they get skinny and they're not happy. Secondly, they're not, pooping or peeing as much as they should be, and therefore your corals are gonna starve. So feeding your fish, indeed, in turn feed your reef. So that's why we don't dose in trace element. We just feed the fish happy, the corals happy.
Yeah, I always say fish poop is a beautiful thing, but maybe I should also say fish pee is a good thing.
Fish pee, yes.
I was talking with who did I have on? I had the guys from Reef Beef on, and Rich Ross, I think, said I asked him something about what do you think's what are we gonna see in terms of like in the next 5 years, like the new trend or something like that, and he said peeing in the tank.
Yes,
I think Rich, we weren't talking about humans peeing in the tank. I think maybe we should be talking about fish, getting fish to pee more in the tank.
Yeah. Speaking of the next 5 years, where do you think the hobby's going?
Oh, you're asking me that question?
From a hobby standpoint.
Wow. I think that from a hobbyist standpoint, well, it's, I think tank raised is certainly going to be a very, even more important thing in the future in terms of being able to grow out and cultivate corals. But I also think that the wild corals that are collected are an important part of the ecosystem, and I do worry about that piece of it. I don't know enough about it. That's not where my expertise is in terms of that part of the industry, in terms of the wild caught and the corals that are raised, maricultured pieces. So, my understanding is that is an important piece to the future of the hobby. But, I just think, based on my experience and my knowledge, that, the captive raised stuff is certainly going to be very important. And, listen, right now there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of unique things happening. I mean, the cost of fish right now is like through the roof, right? Yeah. So that's really changed, and the whole thing going on in terms of collecting in Hawaii is certainly got a that certainly plays a big role in it. But I kind of worry about the affordability of this hobby in the future.
Yeah, interesting. I think I'm on the same page with you on that as well, and I'm seeing the same thing with the fish. That's definitely, like, right now we took down our last fish system. Those that are local to it, they know that we don't even sell fish anymore.
Yeah, I know you were dialing that back, but you're not even selling fish anymore, huh?
We don't even have a dedicated fish system in the store. Reason being is that given our geographical location in Staten Island, and then there are so many other better options out there. People are doing a great job at conditioning, QTing fish where we don't have the space luxury to do it. Plus the prices. Oh my God! Like, we can't even. We feel bad posting these prices up, but we have to because otherwise, what's the point? So we find it's not even doesn't make sense, And then the customer, they don't care about how much it costs to bring them in. They just care how much it's gonna hit their wallet.
Yeah.
Right? So I just turn them and say, you know what, you want this fish? There's people are aquaculturing. I literally tell them to go to check out Biota, check out these other vendors that are conditioning fish. Sometimes even ourselves, we go there and buy their fish. So the price is too much. We cannot where we're on an island. We're on Staten Island. So island, it comes from, you have to take a tow bridge to come here. So just by that alone, with gas and tow, it's already a lot, right? With the current climate, and we just find that maybe growing corals makes more sense, and there's a lot of pressure, on the hobby as a whole to grow corals. There's a lot of pressure. I'm not, with the regulations and scrutiny that's being put on the hobby. I think it's more important than ever that we have to show that we can grow corals as a collective whole. And then, that alone can sustain the hobby. That would be great. We have not brought in much wild. We're not brought in any wild aqua colonies for a long time. A lot of the stuff that we grow, a lot of the stuff you see on auction that we sell are either grown by ourselves or we source from other private hobbyists. I mean, we made a lot of great friends, in the hobby, and we just literally we either trade with them or we buy straight from the hobbyists. So I do think that it's important that we really show the ability for the hobby to grow corals in a good way, in a sustainable way for the hobby to have, for people to just imagine this: they try to shut down the sushi industry, there would be an uproar, right? So I think we are the low-hanging fruit here, and I have concern for the future when they start to come down on it, because we're a small bunch, we're a small tiny community, it's not like the seafood industry where they can't even shut them down, but it's important that we have to grow coral, and it's the future of the hobby. Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's getting more expensive to run a business. Shipping costs right now are like through the friggin' roof. To ship out corals, and so that eats into the bottom line, right?
I think that's why the auction that we have is so well suited for this kind of climate, because people pay what they want to pay, and it helps us out because it gives us guaranteed sales instead of putting corals up and wait for people to buy. But people are able to just bid on what they want to pay for, and then I think it's a good...
Producer Reef is asking, where can I find the POTO auction?
So you can find it on our website, piecesoftheocean.com, under the auction tab. We run it from Wednesday to Friday, and it's pretty short in the grand scheme of things for auctions. And then hopefully. We also have second chances too. So we all know that auction, people don't buy. Sometimes people don't pay. It's an unfortunate thing that comes with the nature of auctioning, and we just put those things back up.
People just flake out.
Oh yeah, there are people. I mean, for various reasons, life, they forget about it, or they may change their mind, So we try to keep those repeat offenders from keep bidding. I mean, we understand life.
You try to block them, huh?
Yeah, we do. No, we actually reach out to them. Just make sure everything. Do you have problem checking out? We try to reach out first, So
And then when they're silent, then that's when you block them.
We do block. We do make blocks. Yeah.
All right, man. So this is a very trendy hobby in terms of corals and you know, things like that, equipment used and stuff. But what's like the hottest corals right now that you guys are selling? What are you getting a big demand for these days?
Always SPS. Always acros.
Which ones, man? You got any old school in demand? Probably not.
Are you talking about my favorites or what?
Let's do customer favorites and then your favorites.
So I think for a while rainbow tenuous, you know,
Yeah.
were king, but I think I see a trend people getting a little bit tired because they're all the same. At the end of the day, it's hard to see a difference. They're beautiful though. Don't get me wrong. I love tenuous, but I think there's a trend. There's a trend towards the smooth skin acros right now. I think smooth skin acros are picking up steam, just because they're so unique. They're so unique. We just recently put up a hung rainbow on our website. It just poof gone within like on auction. It was someone just bought it right out. They don't even wait till bid for it. You know.
That's a classic.
Yeah, that's a classic too. Some of the splice, the rainbow splice, is also very popular.
You guys are growing that up?
We're growing that out, yeah.
What's the deal with that with you guys? I mean, are you finding like green frags are sprouting, you know, pink coralites eventually, or what's your experience in terms of the rainbow splice?
I have not seen it yet. You will have to put the pink next to it for them to fuse, for them to grab. But you know, you never know. I have not seen all green splice just all of a sudden sprout out pink. Yeah, so.
Kenny, don't tell me that, man, because I just picked up a green splice frag, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Hey, you got weird to like a lot of times I gotta tell people is never cross off a coral as a frag, because they would do amazing things as a colony.
Yeah, you never know, right? I mean, I've seen people have experiences with that. The green does start developing pink, but you just never know. And you know, the other thing about acros is, like, you know, you can practically kill them, and then all of a sudden they'll just like come back to life. They're just so resilient.
Yeah, when they start to grow from a single polyp in the crust, and you know, that's a good problem to have, though. Another one that we saw a lot was interestingly what we call a goofy homewrecker.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I saw it on your site. What is a goofy homewrecker?
It's goofy homewrecker because it was one of those situations where I originally bought a colony to grow, but I think I was told it was a homewrecker, but it was not. It looked like it, but it was not. And then we looked at it. The more we looked at it, and I even texted Jason. Jason, does this look like homewrecker to you? He's like, as long as you see the pink coralite, then it's not a homewrecker, right? And then one of the guys said, "Oh, it looks so goofy. This is a goofy homewrecker." So
the name stuck.
Yeah, but it's crazy though. It's when it's happy, it gets really like hot pink, almost like it has hot pink as the vivid insanity, the insanity, the super expensive coral. It gets really hot pink. It's a beautiful coral, and then it's goofy also because it looks different in different tanks. It can look like pale with like blue polyps, and in one tank it's different. It's just all pink, hot pink. It's crazy. Yeah.
Your favorite SPS? What do you dig?
It changes, but right now is this tenuous that we call the outer world. It's just it's a tenuous with like, it's like yellow tenuous with orange polyps. It's just a combination that I have not seen before. I think if you go on our website, you can see under collection. I call it the outer world, and I'm just starting to spread out the frags for different people to grow out right now. Yeah, it's just a crazy coral. It just the color pattern is just different. Never seen anything like that.
You're also into classic SPS. What are some of your favorites besides the Oregon Blue Tort?
Pink lemonade. I'm on the hunt for it right now.
Yeah.
You know, just the yellow beige with the pink polyps. Just, you know, you can't find anything like that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Oregon Tort is one of them. The Oregon Tort these days, back in the day, it used to be known as the coral that was a slow-growing corals. But you know, right now, I don't know, maybe a technology or something in the spectrum, but it grows a lot faster than it used to in the old days.
Yeah, I have the one that I got my big colony in the in my established 187-gallon display tank is growing like a weed for me. But I also had a Tyree Purple Monster next to it, and you know, back when I was living in Connecticut years and years ago, that Tyree Purple Monster just like grew crazy for me. But now it's just like it's really, really going slow, and it's just frustrating. But
you have to find out what when it was growing so fast. You have to try to remember what was the way it was, you know, the flow pattern. Like I feel like, because corals are more sensitive than you think, than you give them credit for. Like they can literally sense where the light's hitting them, where the flow's hitting them. Like you could have the same colony cut into two, and you put them next to each other, and they will grow differently. One will grow faster or in a certain shape. The other one will grow differently. Just that they literally an inch next to each other, and they will grow differently. So I think they are very sensitive to their environment beyond what we take for granted, like lighting, flow. Maybe just the frequency of a chromis try to sleep among it will cause it to grow a certain way, because it's, you know, causing more fanning on the polyp, or peeing near it, providing more nitrate. Like these things, I realized, you know, or you know, you put it on a, or put it, whether or not it's on a mounted on a stake versus on a tile, where a tile you're getting hit with water from above, but then that means there's less possibility of like nutrient or whatnot that's flowing underneath it. Where you're on the branch, you're getting hit from all directions. You get a lot more get hit with a lot more you know, nutrient, or get washed away, your waste washed away more frequently. These little things that I think play a big part on the way they grow.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in play. What SPS do you guys not have that you want? Do you have like a hit list? Anything out there that you don't have?
I just got I just traded for Angry Bird. Angry Growing. I just got the that's one of the one I wanted to get. Which one I want?
There's so many out there now.
I mean, yeah, there's so many out there, but I want to see something that's been proven, you know, that's growing. Like some of the speciosas, you know, like those are very, very beautiful, but I haven't seen evidence of somebody growing into a big colony. So that leads me to think that maybe it takes time, maybe a different type of requirement that coral needs that we are not aware of. But you know, something that can grow, maybe Purple Monster, something that gives us some challenge. Like we can't grow, then we want to try it out, you know. Because the last time I grew a Purple Monster was 10 years ago.
No Purple Monster right now?
No Purple Monster right now.
It's a hard piece to find. I get people hawking me all the time for fragging the Purple Monsters. Like, hey,
it's hard to find them.
I was like, I don't have a fraggable. I don't have anything I can frag right now. Check back in a year.
The problem with Purple Monster, I think, that contributes to its slow growth also, because it's slow growth and rarity, people are only able to render small frags. And with small frags, they grow a lot slower than if you're having a chunky frag, especially with smooth skin. Like if you count the polyps, the number of polyps on a millie at the same size as the number of polyps on a Purple Monster, you probably end up with 2 polyps on a Purple Monster.
That's right.
A ½ inch. Whereas you on a millie, you're gonna have like at least 50 polyps on the same size. So the ability for the coral to capture prey, to consume, you know, nutrient in the water is a lot greater with the millie versus the Purple Monster. So I think, you know, if you get a Purple Monster with a certain size, with a big chunk, it will grow faster. But if you could get a small frag, forget it. Those 2 baby polyps will take forever to capture prey, or to consume, to eat whatever nutrient you give it.
That's a good point, man. I never thought of about like that. You know, there's just you know, they have the white polyps, but they're not. There's not many of them.
They're not big.
Yeah.
So they're not good hunters like the millie is. You know.
Port Wolf is saying that I should talk you into picking up a fairy food frag. That's I think that's the right, the $1 million coral from Battle Corals.
Looking for investors.
Yeah. I think that's what fairy food is. The one that's the mythical frag that Adam at Battle Corals has.
Yeah, Battle Corals. Yes, they have that. It's like it was like a joke, but then they kept it on. Yeah.
One last question for you, Kenny. That a month or two ago, I did a video in terms of kind of like how I've evolved as a reef keeper in terms of kind of changing some of the methods. I'd been very much an old school reef keeper, and I hadn't really changed much like the first 15, 20 years keeping the reef tanks. But I don't know, lately the last 5 years or so, I've made some changes. Have you done any made any changes to the way you keep tender reef tanks these days, the last few years versus when you first got into it?
Very little. I think I tend to do what works, and if it works, I don't touch it, right? But I'm also very stubborn. I'm very reluctant to change. I think most SPS hobbyists are like this because we all understand that it needs stability. It needs once something hits its stride, you don't want to change, and it's totally reasonable. But things are always improving. Things are easier way to do things are always coming out, and I'm open to those things. That's I think. I think more about how to run a business and keep retail at the same time. That changed me. The ability to let go of control, because everybody. I think it's one of the challenges too. Is that you want to control how all the tanks are run, but it's just impossible, right? And the ability to let go and trust in your staff, trust in your to just take care of your tanks for you and just do that. They all bring in their own expertise. They all bring in their own experience, and I have learned a lot from them. And I think I mean, years ago I wouldn't have. I would have dictated how things will run. Every single details. It will drive you crazy. So by allowing them to take care of some of these tanks is I learned a lot from them. Sometimes two parts. Works better in this instance, whereas calcium reactors are over. It's overdone. But as a reef keeper, I think I'm always open to trying things that work. Not to say shiny new things, but I want to know that as long as they work and they work well in my situation, and I would love to try it. So yeah. So that's pretty much.
Yeah, it can get complicated, right? Because there's just so many different ways to run a reef tank, and a lot of different people have success with different methods. So it's
it's a funny thing too. They talk about your personality, like by having different people take care of different tanks in the store. The personality of the reef tank reflect the personality of the person that takes care of it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. For example, I love to feed, and then my business partner he doesn't like to feed. He likes to keep it clean, and you can see like my tank is full of algae. With all the tanks, it's just algae, a lot of algae, but his tank is clean. His tank, because it doesn't feed as much as me. And then his wiring is better than mine. My wiring is a mess.
My wiring sucks too.
Yeah. I learned my wiring from working with him, and so like there's a lot of like trading of knowledge, when you decide to let go of control, and that's what's changed. Yeah.
Cool. So all right, dude. Listen, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Any final words before we sign off?
Test your water. Test. Running a reef tank without testing is like driving a car with your windshield blocked. You go in places, but sooner or later you're gonna crash. So always test your water. Yeah.
Sound advice for sure. And Kenny, where can folks find you besides online at piecesoftheocean.com? I mean, you're in Staten Island, right? You got a retail store in Staten Island, and what else do you want to plug?
On Google, you can find us Pieces of the Ocean. We're on Instagram, hashtag Pieces of the Ocean. We're on Facebook, Pieces of the Ocean, or you can hit me up on Facebook as well. I am pretty active in the SPS groups, in the photography groups. You can find me posting there. So yeah, I mean, love for you guys to come visit our store. I think our store has a wide selection of like since we don't even sell fish now, we focus more on coral. So you can imagine the amount of not just the amount of coral, the quality of coral that that you're gonna see in this area of the country. And we're pretty proud of that. We take a lot of pride in that. We put a lot of hard work into, growing some of the best corals we can possibly grow. So we would love for you guys to come see us and see us in RAP too. ReefBum in New York, New Jersey.
I'm gonna see you there, man.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, listen, I want to just say thank you very much, Kenny, for appearing on the live stream again. It was a great conversation, and I also want to thank Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine for being a sponsor and supporting the show, and also for all you folks tuning in, especially the super chats. Thank you so much, and also a big thank you to the moderator, Paul. Great bearded reef. Awesome job again, Paul. I also want to let everybody know that all episodes of Rappin with ReefBum are now available as podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. My next live stream is next Thursday, May 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Josh Saul from Manhattan Reefs. So we'll be talking Manhattan Reefs next week.
Oh, John.
Yep.
Yeah.
And should be another great show. The full upcoming schedule of guests is on reefbum.com under the YouTube section. So until next time, be safe and be well, and we will see you later.